Like Tiny Tim, please, if you would, watch my little podcast. I don't know what I'm doing, clearly. And I know that you thought I'd be pure as the driven snow. That I would be someone you could count on to be there, speaking truth at all times. And yet tonight, on Brad Stine Has Issues, it's our political podcast, where I go to the very underbelly of D.C., where hell is unleashed and demons run free. And even though you thought I was pure and straight and safe, little did you know that quickly I would be caught up in the vortex, in the swamp. I'd become one of those treasonous underlings that no one can trust. Yeah, just a little meme I put out, and I am suddenly controlled ops. You want to know more? You want to know what happened to this young Christian man who went with all the gusto in his heart that he was going to be a man of virtue and integrity, and how quickly I was ripped out into the drudges? Well, tonight's your night to watch what happens when a man's life unravels right in front of your eyes, simply because I put out a little meme and the internet was not pleased. I give you a dark side of Brad Stine Has Issues. Hey folks, it's 7 o'clock, it's Monday night, even more popular than football. It's Brad Stine Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. It is God's comic. I'm excited, I'm happy. My son Wyatt is here. He just got off the toilet. He ran in. He was able to somehow cleanse himself and prepare himself for battle here behind the producer button board that he runs so eloquently, even though he feels miserably. Son, how are you?
Sorry, I was listening. I found this pen on my desk, and it has not one, but two sides.
A two-sided pen.
Yes, one of them is the really fat, Sharpie one, and the other one's like an actual pen. And, well, this is just more interesting than whatever
So
you're doing
you're
right
saying
now.
it's two sides, but they're not the same. They're a non-binary pen.
That is definitely a thing you can say about them, yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't even know if I should look, son, and here's why. You know how desperately I love to give accolades to my people, let them know who came on first, say hi to everybody. It's always exciting to say hi. I always roll the dice. Who is it this time? I used to be able to count on somebody. I used to have somebody that I could trust to be there, like having my six. But that poor young man, he's moved on. He just simply doesn't seem to be able to catch up as quickly as he could. And so if I just happen to put on my glasses, and yes, I wear glasses, because yes, I'm old, and if you are an ageist, you shouldn't be on this program. Wyatt, what do you think? Are you an ageist?
Those glasses make you look funny.
I knew he would do that, and yet I gave him a chance to be kind.
You
All right.
knew the risk you were taking, and yet you took it anyway. That's on you at that point.
Holy smokeroo, or should I say, holy maple syrup, Danny Herring from Canada is first in my queue.
I got Karen as first
What?
in
Huh?
the queue.
Huh? Well, it even says, hello, Brad and Wyatt, happy to be tuning in from Canada. And with the exchange rate, you got to give her credit.
I'm sorry, exchange rate?
Yes, their dollar's not worth as much as ours, so even if Karen's...
don't they use, like, maple leaves for currency or something?
They have loonies, which are $1 coins, and they have $2 coins. You know what they call those?
Double loony.
Sounds like it, but they actually combined that into a toonie. That's my little Canadian buddies. But then again, they've got Trudeau as their prime minister, so they're doing everything they can to keep from hanging themselves every morning. Anyways, I got Danny, but you're telling me that Karen's number one, doggone it?
Yeah, and I got Nick as number 2.
Darn it, what the heck? Why don't you give me your computer from now on? You take this crappy iPad that never seems to give me the proper info, and then I'm given the wrong page. And listen, God bless Danny. I love her to death. She's been a great donator to this. She's desperate. She's in a bunker somewhere in Canada. She doesn't like to show herself very often because, you know, they're tracking her down. They want to hunt her down. They want to, you know, get masks on her. They're still doing masking. They want to inject her with something or what. Who knows? It's Canada. You know, they've lost their way. But I don't want to give her credit she doesn't deserve because I've never believed in giving a trophy to somebody that didn't earn it, son.
Well,
I don't believe in participation trophies. Clearly, Danny's participating, but she don't get a stinking trophy. Get over yourself.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If we did switch and I took that iPod and you took this computer,
yes,
we would still have different answers because I saw that on my phone.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm using the exact same app you're using to look at the comments, too.
You know who I got number 2? My favorite four-worded woman.
And I obviously remember all 4.
Paula Faye Marie Rauchi. Forrest Bainey's here. Hello, white man. Benjamin Gregory. Thanks for coming back, Benjamin. He used to be our number 1 top dog. He was right there, Mr. Linkletter. But he's been busy. He's in pre-med. You know how he is. He's going to become a chiropractor for ducks. Did you know that? He wanted to be a duck chiropractor because he felt like a lot of ducks aren't given enough emphasis on the problem with their spine when they keep landing on the ice or the water, and they're ignored. They're not given
yeah. So. Yeah, you keep milking that joke, man. Get all the laughs you can out of it. All 2 of them.
I didn't get any, son. For my end, my pad said no laughs. Who else is here? Oh, Berin Mahmananim. Hello, why? She just said hi, why? Not even me.
Well, I mean, yeah, she's talking to the talent.
Clara Beatty. Hey, everyone, Broadway. Let's see. Oh, look what Paula Faye Marie Rauchi, my favorite 4-letter lady, said. 4-worded woman. She said lips are matching words, yay.
I really hate that our audience has to congratulate us for getting the actual most basic premise of a podcast down.
Wyatt, they're congratulating you for doing what you should have done from get-go.
Exactly. The talent.
Karen Boyd, welcome, Benjamin.
The talent.
And then, let's see, Behan McMenon, please mention the movie 1984. The movie 1984, you want me to mention the movie 1984?
Well, we're not going to mention the movie 1984. I'm sorry, but we just don't have the time to mention
Wyatt,
the movie
if I mention the movie 1984, I should get residuals for mentioning the movie 1984. And I find that when I even think of the movie 1984 or do reference points to try to find the producers, the directors, the actors, or anybody still left part of the movie of 1984 to see if I can, in fact, work some kind of brand sharing where they send me some kind of residuals, some kind of royalties, and I say, hey, 1984 is out there. You go look at it. But, son, they haven't even returned a call. So the answer is no. There will be no referencing 1984. Deal with it.
I mean, like a check in the mail the first of every month that we say the word 1984.
Why, John Walters
we'd
here.
say that 1984 times.
Hayden Smoot's here. Doesn't that sound like an interesting name, Hayden Smoot? I mean, it sounds like it should be in some kind of a movie like, I don't know, some kind of funny... like
1984?
Yeah, we could, except for then I'd have to mention it.
Well, yeah, but I'm mentioning it, not you.
Oh, that's a good point. Yvette Cherino, she's here from New York. She's obviously an Italian. I get a lot of Italian women on my podcast. Why is that?
I couldn't I don't know why we have anyone on this podcast.
Oh.
I mean, apparently, it's a miracle if we get lips to work properly.
You're right, or at least to match. Hey, Stephanie LeBlanc's here. Hey, Brad, just got a reminder you are live. You know who she is? Do you know who Stephanie LeBlanc is?
I'm sorry. When she said, I just got reminded that you're live, I could have sworn she said, I just got reminded that you're alive.
No,
and I
alive.
was very, very concerned.
Well,
are you a ghost?
No, I'm here. I'm not a hologram.
Are you the ghost of this podcast that has been cursing the stream?
No. Here's the thing. I just stumbled upon Guy H. Hurst from Utah, and Nick Kress suddenly pops up, and here's what he says. I'm still there, just getting kicked by Facebook. First on mine. Nick always says it's first on his, and you know why he always tells us we're first on his? How can we verify it?
Well, I mean, to be fair, his explanation makes total sense. You know how many issues we've had with Facebook.
Oh, my gosh. I know. And you know who else has issues?
Facebook?
Brad Stine.
Well, no, Facebook is having issues. You know the whole VR, like, Metaverse thing they're doing?
Yes.
Okay, so they have apparently sunk $1.4 billion into this virtual reality universe.
Yeah.
It basically, it's a video game that you wear goggles to play.
Okay.
And they just had a report a few days ago.
Yeah.
About how many people are like playing it.
Okay.
You want to guess how many people are congruently playing this again? $1.4 billion game.
I would guess half of Asia. Probably the whole sub-Saharan Africa is playing even as we speak.
No.
Many of them have quit their jobs to do nothing but be involved in this fake world, because why enjoy the real world when in an actual safari
you
where
say
you
that,
can...
But people have actually bought virtual houses in there that cost as much as an actual real world house.
How many are playing?
30.
I mean, that's too bad. That's funny.
Apparently, it took them about 2 years or so for them to figure out how to add legs to the characters. And then they showed it off a few days ago that they finally did it. They faked it because they still didn't get it.
They can't get the legs on them?
Literally,
That's
they
funny.
don't know how to add legs to a virtual avatar, which every other virtual reality community thing has done for years now.
Why wouldn't they be able to do legs?
I think their official explanation is the human brain can only process one thing at a time, so we have to do this piece by piece.
My goodness. Well, that's crazy. Listen, I got to do quickly. I got to talk about a few. And you're doing. I love the meta insight. That was funny. 30.
It's true though. That's actually
that's what I love it. Bob Solom's here. Hi, Brad. Saw you PK Minneapolis years ago. Put a helmet on. Roy Creselius. Howdy from Seneca, Missouri. My favorite intellectual comedian. Wyatt, of all the intellectual comedians, I'm his favorite.
You're also one of the only.
What does that say about Roy Creselius?
What does that say about the rest of the comedy world?
Good point. Dan Graff, good morning from the convict capital of the world. You know what that is, of course. What country was built on convicts?
Australia.
That's my buddy, Dan Graff. Dusty Wilhelm, Nicholas M. Blake, hi from Florida. Let's see. Robert Coonrod, love you and Wyatt. I'm glad to hear that. Carrie Tudor, glad to be back. Had special services last week. Great time. Well, good to have you, Carrie. We missed you last time. I remember Wyatt was saying on a regular basis, where's Carrie? Where's Carrie? We said, Wyatt, will you please relax? We got a show to do. He said, where's Carrie? I said, Wyatt, will you relax and just do your job? If Carrie can't make it, that's on her. She's an adult. Let her make her own decisions. But no, he's like, where's Carrie? Anyways, he had bad dreams all week, and he ended up in therapy thanks to you not being here, Carrie. So now that you show up, perhaps you could send some candy.
Well, pay the therapy bill. I don't really care at this point.
Yeah. Robert Coonrod said it's getting Orwellian. He's right. Bevan McMenon said, I said hi to both of you, but I didn't see it. See, just trust me when I tell you, this iPad is cursed. It's like demonic. I never get anything that White gets, and White gets everything.
Okay. So I have a comment from Robert Coonrod, who says that apparently the weather where he's from is terrible. It's sadly California here.
Oh, my God.
That is the entire quote he said.
Sadly, California here.
The worst weather condition, California.
Right. You're right. Or like I like to call it, catastrophic.
You paused.
Yeah, because I forgot, because I had it,
That
and
was
then
how
I
much of comedy gold you thought that line was.
No, I paused because I forgot what it was. Hey, guess who's here? Sherry Fiorioni. Hi from Ohio, Sherry. 1984 Fiorioni. Let's see. Stan Stinton. Hey, Stan. Greetings from Alabama. I'm always like to see Stan. He's a good guy. He really is, White. Speaking of Facebook issues, I didn't get a Facebook notification tonight. I'm so shocked at that because so many people of my 347,000 followers are just bombarded with my little notifications, and yet somehow every now and again, as in every time, nobody hears from me. Okay.
Well, what you need to do is you need to send a letter to each of them through the post to remind them.
Oh yeah, it does say Settle, California here. He meant he didn't say the weather. He's from California.
No. Yeah. I'm saying the way that he said.
I
sadly, he was using California like it was a thing.
Why? What is that song from Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Hotel California.
No, that's
I know. That's the Eagles. Danny California.
Danny California. Yep. And Danny Herring is the girl from Canada that said hi. So we have an actual 7 degrees of separation from Danny to California within the pages in this thread. How about that?
Yes, that's right, audience. That's what we were going for this entire time.
Nicholas M. Blake said, I watch you all the time, Brad. You're very funny. God bless. You know what? Yesterday I was in the shower and I said, is somebody watching me? And it was weird, and it was awkward, and it was odd. Well, now I know who it was. I would think he'd keep to himself, because I don't think that's legal, and I'm just going to be honest. I'm glad he's a fan. I don't like being viewed while I shower, son. Do you?
I mean, truthfully?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
There's nothing else to add, just no.
Let's see. Californication is the Chili Pepper song.
Okay, the Stanley Californication Hotel. Why are there so many songs?
Wait, was Californication the song, or was that the name of the album?
I think it was both.
Okay, well then, who's Danny California?
Danny California is another Red Hot Chili Pepper song.
Okay.
About, I think, California. I don't know. There were so many songs about California, and yet so few songs about California.
You know what? There's never a song about
Wyoming.
Well,
because people would have to live there.
No. There's Wyoming songs.
No, name one.
Give me a home where the buffalo roam and the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the stars are out shining all day. Or sun is. Home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play. Mm-hmm. That's all about Wyoming. Do you know who else?
Okay, no. That could be about any area in the Western frontier.
Wyatt, guess who said hi?
Is it? Let me see a second here. I don't know.
Hey, Bevan is watching why there's a delay between Facebook and YouTube. Now listen, Greg Kuntz said hello to us. Greg is your cousin. He's my cousin, and he shows up. He's in Scottsdale, which he's probably having a nice weather over there. Mm-hmm. Stephanie LeBlanc, who I was trying to mention to you before, she is your cousin as well. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so we have two cousins. Yeah.
What is this man's name? I cannot tell.
Bevan, it's a woman, for God's sake. Her name is Bevan.
What is her name? I'm sorry.
Bevan McMinnon. And guess what? You know who they never write songs about? Bismarck, North Dakota. You know why, son?
Because
it's not because they don't love it, not because it's not beautiful, not because it doesn't matter, because there's no word in English that rhymes with Bismarck. Denmark? What are they going to do?
Denmark?
No. That's got a mark in it, but it's not a rhyme. What is it when they rhyme a word with the same word? What's that called?
Lazy.
It's lazy, but there's a term for that. It's kind of like an onomatopoeia.
No, that's how rhyming works, is you pick two words that end the same way.
Yeah, but there's, well, you know what I'm talking about, where they do songs where they kind of rhyme it with the same.
You're talking about a slant.
Keep it up, son.
You're talking about a slant rhyme.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it's sort of rhymes, but not entirely.
Right.
Also, to answer... What was the name again?
Bevan. Bevan McMinnon.
Where is the V in that?
She corrected me last week very cleverly. And
right. That was...
And she wrote it out phonetically, and I was trying to act like I knew how to pronounce
I made the exact
it. And then you had
joke,
exposed the fact that I forgot. So can you just get to the chase? We've got a show we've got to get going to, son.
I'm just saying, for Bevan... last name. So the reason why there was a delay between Facebook...
Christmas presents. Christmas is coming, and you can get this book. Being a Christian without being an idiot. I wrote it just for you so you could change your life. And if you so donate to me, I'll send it right to you. Son, go ahead.
The reason why there was a delay between Facebook and YouTube is because of the way that those two services handle a live stream.
I got you.
Facebook imposes, I believe, a 10-second delay between what we say and do and what you see. I do not think YouTube does by default.
Okay. Well,
so that is why there was a disconnect.
Okay, well, talking about disconnect, I did something today, this week, that got me into big trouble.
You didn't pay taxes.
Oh, no. I always pay my taxes. Lord knows I would never not want to pay my taxes because I can't think of a better use of my money than to send it to the Biden administration.
Okay. You forgot to wear socks with your shoes once.
No, I do that on a regular basis. What I do is I wear my shoes first and then put my socks over them. Why? Because I don't know. I'm just an outlier. I just feel like I'm not going to be conventional. I'm going to stand out. So, yes, but that's not what happened.
You cut a pizza with a knife.
Son, let me tell you what I did.
Oh, you cannot tell me that would be criminal.
Yeah, sure it would. Of course, you got to have that rolly thing with slices.
Okay. What did you do?
Well, I put out a little meme. I had noticed on the news, there's a couple people trending in the news this week, or last week, and we're going to talk about them. One, we're going to interview here just in a few minutes. It's my first interview with a sitting congresswoman.
And hopefully not the last.
Not the last. No, there's going to be a lot more. But that's what I found interesting about today's podcast, son, because when I started this podcast, I just wanted to have some fun and talk and see what would come up. And yeah, things that matter to me. I'm a conservative, so I talk about conservative stuff, and I'm a Christian, so I talk about Christian stuff, and I'm a comedian, so I try to have funny things. American patriot, all these things. We all know that. That's what I do. But I didn't know when I started my little laptop podcast that I would suddenly be talking to people who are actually part of the House and helping to try to get bills paid to bills created that can in fact affect our country, our nation, our health, our history, our freedoms, our liberties. And sure enough, she is going to be with us. But another woman that I met a few months ago, I was performing. I was hired to work in Colorado at the Western Conservative Conference. It's put on by Colorado Christian University. I've been there 3 times. Actually, this was my 3rd time. They hired me 2 times to go perform for them over the years. It's a great conservative conference that Colorado Christian puts on that brings in some great conservative speakers and thinkers from all over every year. It's kind of like, what is it? What's the conservative thing that I've been on? I just blanked on the name of the big giant conservative thing they do every, forgot what it's called. Anyways, but it's like that, except for it's in Florida. So I was performing there, and they had somebody there who was going to go speak. And she was a woman, and she was going to speak on the platform. And I was surprised when I saw who it was. When I saw who it was, I go, why is she at the Conservative Summit? And then I listened to her speak. And she was very pro-America, conservative values, standards, and historical references to our nation and what made it great. And it was basically, if it was anybody else speaking these things, they said, well, yeah, it's a conservative speaking conservative values and Judeo-Christian values. about our history and proud of it. So I talked to her afterwards. After I had performed, she had performed, and I talked to her a bit, and I just said, what has happened? I don't understand what's going on with you. And she really just sort of spoke about how she had changed the way she saw the Democrat Party. She'd been a Democrat. She was from Hawaii, Wyatt. She was from Hawaii. She surfs. Mm-hmm. And Hawaii is one of the bluest, left-leaning lunatic states in our country. It's beautiful. But, son, just because it's beautiful, just because it has, exotic flowers doesn't mean there's not lunatics there. And you should get used to that, son. Do not be fooled by a surfboard and paradise.
I mean, there's another beautiful state that I can think of that's known for surfing that is left-leaning.
Oh, Idaho.
I was going to say West Virginia, but
okay.
Yeah, it works too.
Okay.
No, California.
Yes,
yeah, obviously.
And I used to body surf there all the time, but I never used a regular surfboard.
Well, I usually surf with a board, but you do you, I guess.
Yeah, no, I do me well. Yeah. And so I talked to her, and she just acted as though something was shifting in her. So I put out, and then over this past few days, she came out on her own podcast and made a very definitive statement. I am leaving the Democratic Party. These people have been completely engulfed in wokeism, identity politics, everything that is based on the Marxist Frankfurt School's critical theory by Horkheimer that has gone on to create critical race theory and is destroying America and will destroy. It will absolutely ruin our freedoms if it's not stopped. And she came out on her podcast and said, this is what's happening, and I'm out. I don't want anything to do with it. So I was impressed. And so I got a photo with her. Matter of fact, I think you got it. You can show it to everybody. And I just said, well, let's take a picture and let's say hi. And I sent out a little meme when I saw that she left the Democratic Party. So if you put it on, we can look at it.
It's already on.
It's on. Okay. So let me see. There it is. And it's kind of fuzzy. But it says, we don't agree on issues, but Tulsi Gabbard is what it looks like to put honor above your party.
Yeah, so it's kind of fuzzy. I cropped it so that we take out all of that negative space.
Oh, okay. Is that what fuzzied it up, son?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Hard to tell, though, because it looked good on our software screen. It's only when it's going to Facebook.
Do they have a button that says anti-fuzzy it up?
I'm going to go check.
Okay.
Let's see.
Well, anyways, if they don't, I'll accept that. But that's me and Tulsi Gabbard. I'm the white guy. She's clearly the Hawaiian-looking, tan, attractive one. And I put out that little meme because I wanted to just say, hey, good for you. You looked at the Democratic Party. They have clearly gone lunatic. So you left. So I said, good for you. That's an honorable thing to do. You saw something that you were part of, and you said, I don't want any part of it, and so off you go. So that's all I said. I said, that's an honorable thing to do, to walk away from something you're attached to, you're branded to, if you think it's lost its way and it no longer represents your values. What's wrong with that? That's all I said. I didn't say suddenly she's a Republican. I didn't say suddenly she's the new conservative champion. I didn't say we could stop the presses. Tulsi Gabbard is our new leader. She is our AOC. Didn't say anything like that. Simply said, you left something that you thought was no good. That's an honorable thing to do. That's all I said. Next thing I know, I sent this out. Everybody is inundating me. Oh, but she's Klaus Schwab lackey. Oh my gosh, she is part of the global leaders conference, and she is clearly is being used to fool us and to lure us into thinking she's one of us so that she can steal votes and destroy our opportunities, and part of the World Economic Forum, and she's simply utilized by them, and she's a pro-abortion, and she's going to grab our guns. And I'm like, I didn't say I've agreed with anything that she believes. I literally said, don't agree on her policies, But she left the Democratic Party and said it right to their face. I said, good for you. That's honorable. That's all I said. I wanted to make a point about people who just have to immediately jump on and show, I'm here, I exist. How dare you say something nice about somebody that did something? I don't care. Look, all truth is God's truth, period. 2 + 2 is 4. God invented it because God's language is mathematics. It's how we can course the universe, how we can find things throughout the universe and make calculations because of mathematics. It's an amazing, miraculous language. It's an abstract that we know works because it's another proof of God. Anyways, it was so interesting to me that I just said something nice about somebody that, yeah, normally wasn't on our side. Normally wasn't somebody that would stick up for our values. I get it, and I said so. But she did something cool, and I talked to her personally for a while, and she sounded like she was doing some soul searching. So I said, let's give her a shot. You left the Democratic Party. Let's see what she does now. Let's see what happens. That's all. And these people are like, oh, you're being fooled. Or, oh, it's telling. It's that one person. It's telling that you said this honorable thing about her. Does that mean that maybe that's telling us something about you? Suddenly, I'm part of the conspiracy theory. Suddenly, I'm a Klaus Schwab lackey, part of the, whatever it is, the global leaders conference, and I'm secretly going to suddenly be invited. And it's like, nope. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying something kind to somebody that does something that you admire. All truth is God's truth. She left a party that is destroying America, and I said, good for you. You know what? I stand by that. Good for you. Get out of there. Now, switch your mindset, switch your convictions, see what is true and what is good and what is pure and what is virtuous, and jump in and join us. We could use you. You're smart. You're intelligent. You're a go-getter. You ran for president. So I'd love you. I'd rather you be on our side and fight with us. But people just want to condemn. They don't give anybody a shot. Again, I didn't suddenly say, I'm on her side. I simply said, met her, liked what she did, wanted to say something about it. So this is what, you can come back to me, Wyatt. They're tired of looking at that picture. They want to see me. They want to see me live. They want to see my passion, my righteous indignation. Have you switched back yet?
No, I'm never switching back.
Switch back so they can see my intensity. Never. They want to see that this guy is serious about what he's standing for.
I did, by the way. It's just, again, the delay.
No, I said.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that was for...
I'm curious about you guys and what you think. Do you think that maybe, just maybe, of all the people that exist in this country, since this is our sphere of influence, this is what we have to protect because it's about to be destroyed, and if it goes down, we got nothing else to talk about. We're not going to be sending missionaries to Africa anymore because we're going to need missionaries here because we're all in jail. So, yeah, it's important to stand for your territory and fight for it. So what do you think? Do you think that we should give somebody a chance to redeem themselves, forgive themselves? One thing wokeism never does is let you redeem yourself. Let you say sorry. It doesn't care what you say or do or what you've accomplished. If 30 years ago you said the wrong thing, whatever you've accomplished up to this point can be thrown out. This childish immaturity, this leadership construct that only a 4-year-old would live by is what we now have professionals and adults and CEOs living by. Yeah, we got to crush it. If it's woke, put it back to sleep. I'm not kidding. It needs to die. Well, I'm just a comic, right? But I'm part of the puzzle. I'm a piece of the puzzle. And so I did another event in Colorado a while ago. It was a Lincoln dinner. And one of the keynote speakers at this Lincoln dinner, way out in the middle of the prairie in Colorado, was a young first-term congresswoman from the 3rd District. And I listened to her speak, and I said, this girl is on fire. She is a full-blown, absolute, committed Christian. So this is my sister here. She's pro-America. This woman got the ability, the freedom to carry her piece in D.C., which got Nancy Pelosi to set up metal detectors in the house for Bieber to come through because she was packing. I loved that. So I got to talking to her, finding out who she was. She saw my show. She was enthralled by what I had to say, and she goes, "Wow, it was great." I said, "Listen, let's do some things together. We got to fight together. I mean, there's not a lot of us out there, so let's do what we can." And I asked her right there. I said, "Would you go on my podcast?" And so, guess what? She did. Here's somebody that's pretty busy. She's on Fox all the time. She is constantly in the news. She's constantly fighting, butting heads, and trying to put Nancy Pelosi into a place where she no longer has the wherewithal to get away with the things she does. I mean, she's a first-time congresswoman that's taken on the head of the beast and full-blown with guns blazing, literally. So I was excited that she wanted to talk to us and me. And I say us because you guys created this. You created this podcast, not me. And this little comic suddenly is moving into the major leagues now. We're starting to have more and more guests. And I told you and I promised you, if you help me build this thing, if you think it's worth it, we'll get people on here that you're going to find interesting. Well, here we go. Our first one, a major interview with somebody who is on major television shows, Tucker Carlson's and wherever else they'll have her. And now she's on my little old podcast that you and me created because we felt like there was something that needed to be said to America in this flavor. So, sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy our first big league interview with Lauren Boebert. Enjoy. You're welcome. Okay, well, for all of my fellow militia of the mind, as you know, on Stine Has Issues, we are comedy, conservatism, and Christianity colliding in a cacophony of clarity. It's a one-of-a-kind podcast that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world because why would it? I'm a freak. But here's the most beautiful thing about it. For you guys who have watched this podcast and helped it grow, my biggest thing, my number one idea is based on two concepts. Number one, truth. I'm a Christ follower. I am beholden to the truth at all times. It is the foundation of everything I say, do, speak, and put out into the atmosphere. But also, I've made it very clear, I am not interested in a podcast that says, look how great conservatives are, and look how stupid the left is. That's easy to do, gets a lot of views, doesn't interest me. What interests me is trying to find some healing and some way of fighting this nation to return to liberty and freedom, because if we don't do that, we're wasting our time. So I'm looking for actual pragmatic ways to see how to change this nation for the better and for the best. And I have the privilege and the pleasure of having my first Congresswoman on my podcast. That's ridiculous, but she's here. And she's wonderful, and she's a hero, and she's a warrior. I just had a small chance to meet her, but now I'm going to give it to her. So I'm going to introduce her with one word, Lauren Boebert. There, it's my little joke that's giving her credit for her little joke that she gave to Biden that everybody missed. Lauren, how are you, kiddo?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me on, Brad. You know, God sits in the heavens and laughs. So thank you for everything that you are doing to bring truth and common sense to so many people here in America, and sprinkling that with joy. I truly believe that that is what opens the hearts and minds of so many Americans, is to have that laughter that really helps the medicine go down. And so thank you for all that you are doing. And, you know, it's such an honor to be a representative in this time. And I do give all glory to God for that, for highlighting this position, for giving me the courage, the boldness, the grace to do this. And it's just amazing to serve the American people in this time.
Yes, and you're doing such a wonderful job. And because of that, because you're doing such a wonderful job, you're being maligned, attacked, criticized, shot at. Now, I know I'm not concerned about you getting shot at as much because I know, sister, you shoot back. So I love that. And that is, in fact, what the Second Amendment was created for. But the truth is, as conservatives and as Christians,
we're not looking for bloodshed. We're not trying to go start a civil war. I called the ministry and my podcast a militia of the mind, because the truth is we have to outthink these people. We have to outwork these people. We have to find backdoors and dig holes, because the dissemination of information in this nation is owned by leftists, Marxist leftism. I know it sounds conspiracy theory to all you guys out there, but it is what is actually happening. And so when I see somebody like you who's in the front lines, but you're actually able to do some damage because you are really a representative there. You get to be and a participant in bills that are come up into Congress in ways of trying to create new legislation that's constitutional, but in fact tries to return us to the original intent of the Constitution, which is what I believe is what matters to you. So just real quickly, without going through the basic standard questions that you've heard a million times, I don't like that. I want to let you be you. So just for a quick second, tell for the people who aren't in Colorado who you are and what you stand for, and you get to define yourself, not through the spin and the malice that we see from the left-leaning mainstream media. Tell us, who is Lauren Boebert and what is your mission?
Well, thank you so much for that. I'm not too concerned about all the attacks that are thrown my way, because in order to define me, you look at the Word of God. That is where I get my value from, my worth from. I was purchased at a high price by the blood of my Lord Jesus, and that is what defines me. And so, of course, we all have stories and upbringings that have helped create and build our character. I believe that the tough times that we go through only make us tougher. There is that grace, God's ability to help get us through. But I didn't always have everything just handed to me. I certainly wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I was actually raised in a Democrat household, and it was because my mom believed the lies. She believed that government was supposed to take care of you, and the only way to raise your children was through government assistance. And that was all fine until we saw ourselves stuck in this cycle of poverty, and it was almost impossible for us to get out of that. And at 11 years old, I remember standing in a warehouse in Denver, Colorado, and waiting for bread and government cheese. And I knew that that was not America's best. At 15 years old, I started working. I worked at a local McDonald's. Minimum wage was low enough and the regulations weren't as strict, so they could actually invest in a 15-year-old kid who didn't have any experience. And so they instilled work ethic in me and a sense of responsibility. And gosh, that first paycheck that I received, it really showed me two things. First of all, I don't like this FICA guy. He's taking all my money. And then second, there was pride and empowerment. And I saw that I could do a better job taking care of myself than government ever had. So I began to build these conservative policies in my life unknowingly, and just saw a better way forward. And now that I'm a mom, I have 4 boys ages 10 to 17. Pray for me. But I have them, and I don't want them to live in a socialist nation. I want them to live in the land of opportunity. And that doesn't mean it's guaranteed outcome, but we all have an opportunity to succeed here in America. And I love the vision that our founding fathers had for our nation. I'll try to tell this a little short. I could get super into detail with just the fascination I have with their ideal of America. But our founding fathers, they were living under tyranny and oppression from a faraway king. And they took the word of God and acted on it. You can see faith in everything that they did. They declared independence before they were independent. God says, declare a thing and it shall be established. They wrote out the vision. They made it plain, just like Habakkuk 2 tells us to do. And they declared this independence, and they didn't stop there. They celebrated that independence as though it already belonged to them. God declares a thing from the beginning. He declares the end, and that's what our founding fathers did. Even in Mark chapter 11, it says, whenever you have cast your mountains into sea, those impossibilities in your life that seem absolutely immovable, when you have spoke to those situations and cast them into the sea, believe that you receive it. And that's what our founding fathers did. They believed that they received that independence. And after they celebrated with fireworks and singing and laughing and dancing and even guns, then they went out and fought the battles because they also recognized that not only are they co-heirs, but they are co-laborers with Christ. And they went out and fought that battle and created this amazing nation, this government, which is something that we have to preserve. And when they created our documents for our government, I think it's interesting to note, they wanted a government that was so strong and powerful that we could fight off tyranny and oppression from around the world and even rescue others out of it. But they wanted a government so limited that it could never impose that same tyranny and oppression on its own people. So, Brad, that's what I'm here to defend. I'm here to defend the American dream. I have lived the American dream. It is because of these possibilities in this nation that I am where I am today. I went from standing in line for government cheese to being a mom of 4 boys, a small business owner, and now a United States representative serving the people that I love. And only in America are those possibilities available.
No, I mean, woo, sister, come on. I mean, you are serious. Well, listen, I got to be honest with you. I have a bit of a challenge with myself because I feel an obligation to, I don't know how you're going to take this. I think I do, but I'm going to say it anyways. I feel an obligation to defend women. I have a sense of honor that I want to defend. And when I see people attack Christian women, mm-hmm. I want to defend them, and I want to do that by any means necessary. And it's the great double-edged sword of my faith, using a biblical reference, because I'm not allowed to be an offensive warrior. The Christianity doesn't give us that access. I don't get to go kill people I don't like. I am allowed, though, to defend myself against injustice, against those things that would come against liberty, freedom, things that are rights that God Almighty gave me that was simply placed into the Constitution and the Declaration. We didn't; those rights, of course, came from God. The founders made that very clear. But they also wrote them down so we could all look at this piece of paper and know what's the game here. How's the rules? Yes. So we understand what we can expect to be a citizen of the United States. And so when you bring up these ideas, here's one of the things that it reminds me of. You know, I try to be fair to folks that I disagree with the best I can. It's difficult because they are postmodern. They don't believe in truth. So it's difficult to argue with someone or have a debate if there's no truth we can land on, so we can all sort of get our compass back in true north. But one thing that I find interesting is the left at least give the illusion that they care about the downtrodden, right? And I say the illusion because they don't fix it. They don't help them. They use them to get power by claiming we're seeking power. They use them and keep them down by claiming we keep them down. It's institutional narcissism. They literally, whatever they claim you are doing is what they do. But they might care about people. Maybe they do. Maybe they care about people being downtrodden, being in economic hardship or something. Let's just say they do care about that. The difference between the conservative, who wants to conserve the wisdom of the ages, and the leftist, which simply goes by emotions and subjectivity, is they don't have solutions. They have a lot of complaints. They have a lot of deconstruction. They have a lot of destroying, but they don't build anything because they have no foundation to land on. So one thing I love about your story is that when I hear you went to McDonald's, you know, we hear a lot from the left saying, oh, we need a minimum wage that's livable. We need $25 minimum wage. It's like, wait, McDonald's wasn't for a career. If you're, you know, I mean, if you want to be a manager, I suppose, or a franchise owner, but it was supposed to help a 15, 16-year-old kid learn what it means to get up and go to work and do a shift and pay taxes and do your job and listen to someone above you and learn how to be respectful. That it was just learning you a work ethic, a puritanical work ethic. And so when I hear your story, they would look at you and say, this poor pathetic person needs our help and needs us to bail her out. To me, I hear inspiration. I worked my butt off to say, I'm going to dig myself out of this thing and not wait for the government to do it for me. So they would see what you just described as an oppression. that you've been oppressed, and you, as a conservative, see it as a challenge to motivate you to overcome. Do you see this as one of the big problems in America, is why the victim status is so destructive? Because it literally teaches somebody how not to be teachable. How do you see that when you look at your constituents and people who are in difficult situations and don't realize they're kind of sometimes choosing it without knowing it?
Yeah, well, so I'm so glad that you brought up that victim mentality, because that is something that I've never had. I've had the opportunity to play that victim role many times in my life, but knowing who I am in Christ, knowing the Word of God, I know that I am a victor, and that I have already overcome. And so just seeing a way through that. And look, I'm glad that there's a safety net to some extent. I don't think that we need adult, able-bodied, single men and women on welfare who don't even have children. That's something that we're seeing right now. All the unemployment benefits went away, so everyone just switched over to welfare. Not everyone, but a lot of people just switched over to welfare. And I am much more of the mindset of, let's give someone a hand up, not a hand out. I spent 7 years counseling women at the local Garfield County Jail, and that's exactly what I presented to them, a hand up. I didn't have much to offer them through many of those years, but I was able to encourage them and guide them and lead them into a direction and a path of success in their life, that they didn't have to be bound by their past mistakes. I literally went into this jail and introduced them to the God who could turn all their shame into glory. And so it was a wonderful experience. And then later, I did become a business owner, and I was able to bring these women into my home for a time period. I was able to offer them jobs, and that was so much more powerful than any government program could ever be. And many of these programs, we're just creating commissions, we're creating more bureaucrats, more bureaucracies, giving them billions of dollars to work from home. And really, it creates a larger divide between the people that they are claiming they're trying to help and the work that's actually getting done. And so it's not really the right model. It's a proven model that has failed so many people and left them in that cycle of poverty, like I mentioned before. So giving businesses the opportunity to hire people and train them and send them off. I look at our universities. They are not creating the work group that they should be right now. We need an amazing workforce coming out of these universities, but they're so hung up on critical race theory and wokeism and political correctness that we aren't even getting the workforce that we need to function in this nation. But also, you brought up you want to be a defender of women. And I think that is very admirable. I too am a defender of women, but I'm a defender of men also. And despite having only a GED, and I'm not a biologist, I do know the difference between a man and a woman, and that there are two genders. But it's so perverted. The truth has been twisted and literally traded for a lie. You can't even go out and defend women without having to mention these 87 other genders that have been created in the past few years. You have men competing in women's sports. In the MMA, a man twice has crushed a woman's skull in the ring, and just because he claimed to be a female. You have inmates in jails who are claiming to be women and going into women's pods and impregnating these women. It is so unjust. You have women who have lost their scholarships. And, we're not just talking about prepubescent soccer here, 8-year-old soccer. These are women who have trained their entire lives, worked for scholarships, worked for those trophies, for those victories. And then a man comes in and takes that from her. And so, like I said, the truth has been traded for a lie, and it's almost impossible by the left standards to defend a woman. We are created equal. We're not the same. Women are the lesser vessel, and we need masculinity in our lives to balance that so-called weakness. Just us being more frail and needing that strength in our life. I like to see marriage as something that contrasts. Your differences cover the other's weaknesses. Your strengths cover their weaknesses. That strength isn't meant to expose someone else's weakness. It's meant to cover it and help them along so they will be stronger in the end. And where has that left us with this wokeism that is infiltrating our nation, our schools, every bit of society? Well, it's left us with the only way a woman can be empowered is to have the right to kill her child. And I know I just went on a long spectrum there, but that is a gift that women have and only women have. And that is something that should be celebrated. Like, that is so empowering to create life. And the left wants to take that truth and turn it and say, no, you are only empowered if you have the ability to end life.
No, that's so powerful. And there's so many elements there that you talked about that I really would like to try to crystallize a little bit from your perspective. Because one of the things that clearly undergirds everything you are is you're a Christian. Your Judeo-Christian worldview is the foundation for the way you see the world, as is mine. So I understand that clearly. And I want to get to that in just a second, because there's an element about the besmirching of Christians in America that needs to be addressed, because it's evil and it's dark. And I want to talk about it, not as a victim, but as a pragmatist. There's truth happening, true elements happening that is a censorship and an attack against a certain group of people. And we should discuss it. But one thing I do try to give my viewers, my fans, and people that watch me is real lessons in what is really happening in America, and if and how they can try to change the milieu of America. You know, you're responsible for the territory you're in. So if you're a factory worker or whatever, your territory might just be a couple miles. It's your family, it's your workers, it's your thing. But you also have a much larger moniker. If you are a citizen of the United States of America, you are literally the government of the United States of America. It's you. But we clearly have found that these that are those who were elected to represent us believe they rule us. And that's why I fought against the masks. I didn't take a mask from day one. I said something's wrong, this is unconstitutional, and fought this idea. But here's what I wanted to ask you, because one thing I love about what you do, you have something unique. Not everybody is elected to Congress. So whatever happens in your life, that's a feather in your cap. You've done something unique. So I want to let my listeners who are fellow Americans, usually, not always, I get people from Australia and Canada and England watching, and Ireland. Don't ask me why, but they do. But they're curious about how America works, because they're fascinated by us. So let me ask you this. And I know it's a much larger answer than this, so if you can compact it, so be it. But tell me, as an American citizen, I elect you. If I'm in the 3rd district in Colorado, you're my representative in Congress, okay? So I elect you. So what, you go to day one, the first day you are a congresswoman, you represent these folks. How does that work when you first start and you're green? I've never done this, don't know how it works, not sure how this pans out. Can you give us just a little synopsis? How does one begin to enter into this political realm, realizing the responsibility that you have, and suddenly finding out what the real game is when you get in amongst these entrenched 40 years politicians who should never continue to be politicians? It was never supposed to be a career. It was supposed to be a privilege. So tell me, if you can, how does it work when you first start? Is there a lot of hindrances? Do people bring you in? Do they keep you aside? How much influence can you utilize immediately?
Yes. Well, first of all, the House of Representatives is a majority rule self-governing body. So immediately when you start a new Congress, the majority makes the rules of the Congress. And when we came in, Nancy Pelosi had all sorts of rules that would hinder the minority from passing legislation, from offering amendments, from having debates. And so I immediately saw this as a challenge. And I recognized that I was going to have to work extra hard to have a voice and be the voice for the constituents who hired me to be there, who elected me to represent them. And that's why you've heard so much from me, because Nancy Pelosi controls the vote schedule. She controls the floor schedule, the committee schedules. but she doesn't control my words. So I am sure to put public pressure campaigns out on things that we have to stop. And I've been pretty successful in some of those. Take, for instance, the Disinformation Governance Board. This was a 1984 Orwellian Ministry of Truth that the Biden administration wanted to put forward. And immediately I got extremely loud and said, no, you are silencing my constituents' freedom of speech and every other American. This was put under the Department of Homeland Security, a militant department of the federal government, to silence your speech. This department was created to counter terrorism after 9/11, and now it's being used against American citizens. And I'm proud to say, because I got loud about this, of course, there was legislation that I introduced, but Nancy Pelosi has called me the enemy within. So she's not exactly knocking on my office door saying, Lauren, what bill would you like to bring to the House floor for a vote this week? So I had to be creative, and it was successful. That Disinformation Governance Board, that Department of Propaganda, is shut down. Nina Jankowicz resigned, and they ultimately decided to cancel it. And this is because I refuse to remain silent. I know if we remain silent, we lose by default. But another thing in Washington, D.C., it's really Nancy Pelosi's con game is what I like to call it. And I started picking up on these scams right away. I serve on the budget committee. My husband was a little nervous about that. And shortly after I started serving, I said, don't worry, Nancy Pelosi won't allow us to have a budget. So we're good. But in the budget committee, we don't have a budget. And even the budgetary items that we have jurisdiction over, which is every part of government, we don't have hearings on, and we don't have legislation going through that committee. Take, for instance, the 2 budget reconciliations, budgets in the title, and they bypassed the budget committee, went straight to the House floor for a vote. So we weren't able to offer amendments, markup, debate, any of that. It was Nancy Pelosi's rules only. And so this is really the scam that's going on. The committees of jurisdiction aren't even able to talk about the issues that are impacting Americans each and every day, causing 8.3% inflation rates, causing this energy crisis. I serve on the Natural Resources Committee, and we aren't able to talk about energy independence or producing energy here in America. Instead, we're begging Iran, begging Venezuela, lifting sanctions, begging OPEC instead of relying on the American roughneck, sending Joe Biden to Saudi Arabia to fist bump a crown prince and come back with nothing but COVID. And, none of these are actually addressing the issues. But Nancy Pelosi's con game is this, Brad. She will title a bill something wonderful, like saving the puppies and building rainbows, except you read the text and it has nothing to do with puppies or rainbows. And the bills never line up with the actual title. And in fact, if they did, I would vote yes a lot more. The last budget reconciliation we had was the Inflation Reduction Act. It didn't reduce inflation. Inflation increased. It was the Inflation Expansion Act. And even Senator Manchin, who voted in favor of this, was asked by a reporter after the bill had passed and inflation was at 8.3%. He said, hey, this bill didn't reduce inflation. And he said, of course it didn't. Why would it? It was never supposed to. And so this is the biggest con, that Americans are being deceived, that we title something one way and the text does something completely different. So in DC, it is hard in the minority to represent your people. I'm looking forward to a majority next Congress, so we can actually have real debates and make bills better and give a voice to our constituents once again.
Well, years ago, I was at the DC press dinner. A press guy had invited me to be his guest, and I was sitting with Charlie Rangel. I don't know if you look like you're so young, so I don't know if you remember Charlie Rangel, but he was a representative, I think, of Brooklyn, one of the boroughs or something, but he was there forever. But he was a Democrat. But he was one of the entrenched guys and kind of rough around the edges, but he'd been around forever. And I remember talking to him and just talking about, why aren't we, really trying to come together as Americans? Because I see the Republicans getting up there and we will fight, we'll do this and do that. And then the Democrats say, well, what, and then in the end, everybody says what their constituents want to hear. and then nothing happens. And it was so frustrating. And I'm going to use some salty language because I'm going to say what he said, but he looked at me, I'll never forget this, and he said, "It's all bullshit." And I realized that the moment he was telling me that, he was letting me in on the secret. This is a game to these people. They don't care about it. They really don't represent us. And it really caused me a lot of chagrin. And again, I'm just a truth teller. So, it caused me to really have a difficulty with the Republican Party because I assumed they would be the check and the balance, especially during the Obama administration when we took back the House. When it was clear that he was going rogue, I thought, hey, we got the House back, we got the Senate back, we can start stopping all this. Nothing happened. And I said, look, I know what the left believes in. It's demonic. These are the people that are baby butchers. These are people that believe that men are women and you cut off the genitalia fiber. I mean, it is demonic and sick. But you know what, Lauren? They admit it. At least I know what I got. I know who my enemy is. But don't tell me you're going to represent my voice and I give you my vote and then you turn me, because that's Judas. And that to me is much worse than at least the demon. I know what I'm fighting. But don't tell me you're my buddy and stab me in the back. So let me ask you this. Because again, you're in the trenches. So I'm trying to let you help us help you. Is there something that is too much for us to expect out of our representatives? In other words, how much can you actually accomplish? Because I have a feeling there's so much more nuance to try. I'll vote for yours if you vote for mine. And it just this simple game of this is the truth. This is what's best for America. Forget the party lines. Let's fix this. And it doesn't stinking happen. So tell me, what is it about the regular citizen who looks at as you as our voice? Where do we expect more from you than you can deliver? And where do you think we should expect more from our representatives?
That's a great question. And, it really depends on what season we're in. Of course, we need to be fighting for our constituents on a regular basis. But take next Congress, for instance, the 118th Congress. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I believe we'll have the House. I hope we'll have the Senate. That will be much tougher to accomplish, but we still won't have the White House. So there's a lot of legislation that we are gearing up and introducing, and we'll introduce it again next Congress. And we want to get that passed, but will Joe Biden really sign that legislation into law? Because there are so many party politics that are played. And so I would say in the next Congress, expect that we will slow down the Democrats' destruction. Nancy Pelosi will not have the power of the pen, and she will not be able to write this rampant legislation, 3,000-page bills, give us 22 hours to read them before we vote on them, and spend over $1 trillion and say, you know what, we're going to pass it to find out what's in it. So we can at least stop that. We can have investigations. We can have hearings. I hope that Jim Jordan brings Secretary Mayorkas into the Judiciary Committee for impeachment hearings. This is something that needs to happen for the invasion at our southern border. But when it comes to just everyday legislation, we do need a majority back. And Brad, I'm here because I was just as frustrated as you when we had everything and did nothing. We fought against our own commander-in-chief and the executive branch every step of the way and got nothing accomplished, not enough accomplished. In the last 2 years, President Trump sure did a lot and was able to drive that agenda, and I give him a lot of credit for that. But there's so much more that we could have done. And that first 2 years was very, very difficult. Just so many people who were just stuck in their ways and didn't want to work with President Trump. But I absolutely agree with you that the Democrat Party does an excellent job defining themselves. They do not hide it. They do not hide that they want to destroy our constitutional republic, that they hate the Constitution, that the Judeo-Christian values are the enemy to them, and they want that to be punished in every way. This is stuff that I fight against every single day. But then you have Republicans who say one thing on the campaign trail and then do another when they get to office. These are rhinos, Republicans in name only. And Brad, I am a professional rhino hunter. I took on a 5-term Republican incumbent. I had never been in politics before. To use some salty language myself, I got pissed off and I wanted to do something about it. It wasn't enough to sit at home on my sofa and complain about what was going on. I wanted to put my hand to something and be a part of the solution. Yeah. So I entered into this against all odds. Everyone said, you're not going to win. You're not going to do it. You can't win for dog catcher. And, I took out a 5-term incumbent in the primary. And that's why primaries are so important, to actually get someone who is going to be principled and do what they said they're going to do. Enough of these go along to get along Republicans who are compromising ourselves out of a nation. Yes. This is what's put us over $30 trillion in debt, and we don't have any solutions to actually show for it. And then Democrats get into power, they do what they promised, and they undo any good that Republicans were able to get through immediately. We saw the executive orders come out of Joe Biden's fake White House set. And, it's so frustrating, but primaries are important. And I have talked to Republican leadership multiple times, and I said, it's time that Republicans stop only campaigning as conservatives and we start governing as conservatives. Yeah. We campaign as conservatives because we know that wins elections. Yeah. But when we govern as conservatives, that's when the American people win.
Listen, and I hope I'm not, we're getting close to the end of it. And if you have a couple more minutes, I hope. Sure. I don't want to take advantage of it, but you have so much to say. And I just want people to hear your voice because there's so few courageous reps out there. You know what you are? You're just an American citizen trying to do the right thing. That's all you are. You're given a title because that's the way our government works, but you're just one of us. And and so I want people to hear about you and hopefully inspire others to join in and support you. So a couple things just to kind of get to the end, but I think they just need to be discussed. This border thing is treasonous. I mean, they are essentially choosing to commit suicide. They are saying, let people invade this nation. One of the things that made this nation so amazing is that we were the only nation built on a creed. We find these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, endowed by their creator, soon inalienable rights amongst which are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. By the way, it used to be owning private property, and they turned it to the pursuit of happiness. So that they were
the thing.
Yeah, right, the thing. But that was important. Well, this is exactly what they despise, the left. Because if they must deconstruct the institutions and the foundations and the traditions so they can rebuild it in their cancerous image that they see, which is the Marxist lunacy of leftism that's never worked, but they don't care. They just care about power. But that being said, the border thing to me is so beyond comprehension that I don't understand. And again, I'm just being straight with you. So you tell me if I'm asking too much. I don't know why every Republican isn't on the border with a big old line holding hands saying, we're not putting up with this anymore. If you guys just made this gigantic, we're not hiding or pussyfooting around or worried about you calling us a racist. We are going to make sure the world knows that you're welcome in America, but you knock first. Okay? I'm happy to have you in my house. You don't just walk in. And there was a time, yes, you come into the United States, you bring the best of your culture, and then you become one of us. We were not built on multiculturalism. That's destructive. We were built on e pluribus unum. Yes, there's many. Yes, we needed all the nations that came from older ethnicities and older histories to bring to us and made us great. Absolutely. But then you became one. You learned our language, our traditions, and you said, we will participate in your tradition. You don't leave your country unless you're going to a better one, clearly. So there was a time when, yes, you become a citizen of the United States and you're an American. Doesn't happen in France. You don't become a French. You don't become German once you become a citizen of Germany. Only here can you be here for 2 years, barely speak English, and be an American because you're a citizen. But there was an expectation that there's a difference between being a citizen and being someone who was respectful and grateful for America. That was assumed that you also would be very sober-minded in understanding what we're letting you participate in. So this is in no way delineating minorities or not letting them in. This country was built off of plenty of minorities. But if you don't believe that you need to join us And yes, discipline yourself and supplant some of your history to engage in ours. That America won't work if you don't do that. So what in the world needs to be done to stop this border crazy?
Yeah. Well, so I've asked Border Patrol agents, what can I do? After all, I am from the federal government and I'm here to help. But I have asked Border Patrol agents. I've been down there multiple times and I've seen the invasion firsthand. I've seen the unaccompanied minors. I've seen where parents have put their children in the hands of cartels to get them into the country, the drug smuggling, the gun smuggling. And I said, what do you need from us? And they said, right now, we don't need more resources. We don't need more resources. We don't need more personnel. We don't even need more infrastructure. We just need the policy that allows us to do our job. And these men and women go home defeated each and every day because they swore to uphold and defend our Constitution and our borders, our country, and they aren't able to do that. They are just processing people who are coming in, giving them not even notice to appears anymore because we are reaching 4 million people who've come into our country illegally. So a notice to appear is too much strain on the system. So now it's just a notice to report. Hey, give us a call when you get to where you're going. And this is. It really is treasonous what's taking place. That's why I want to see articles of impeachment for Secretary Mayorkas. I'm on some now, but we need to bring those forward when Republicans have the House. And you're right. People do have the right to be citizens here, to come here and do things the right way. America is the most generous country when it comes to legal immigration. We accept about 1 million people every year legally, and to cut that process is such a slap in the face to them. One of the greatest honors that I have as a representative is attending nationalization ceremonies and welcoming these new Americans who did it the right way, who counted the cost and invested their time and their mind and their resources and their energy into becoming an American citizen. And one of those naturalization ceremonies that I went to, there were 41 new American citizens, and each of them held in their hand a small American flag, tears streaming down their face. And I saw the conviction in their eyes that was the one symbol of liberty and justice for all. And they came here to preserve that liberty, to preserve that justice, to fight for it, and to uphold the American dream. They don't have rights where they come from. They don't have freedom where they come from. That's why they are coming to America, to live out the American dream and to be an American. I saw the conviction in their eyes that they have what it takes to help make this a more perfect union. Yes. So when we allow wide open borders and these people to come into our country, it is so disingenuous, so disrespectful to the men and women who have done it the right way. And not only that, but we are losing hundreds of people a day to fentanyl poisoning. And that is coming directly over our wide open borders. And it is the #1 cause of death for people ages 18 to 45 in our country. It's killing our children in our communities. And I have a bill to designate fentanyl for exactly what it is. It's a weapon of mass destruction, and to provide our law enforcement officers the resources to combat this. But instead, the Democrats want wide open borders. They want to overrun the system, overwhelm the system, create chaos. I have spoke to Secretary Mayorkas, and he says that it's going to take at least 8 to 10 years, and this was last year that he said this, at least 8 to 10 years to fully vet and process the people who have come into our country through this administration, through this regime, really. And it is deliberate, it is purposeful. Secretary Mayorkas has been in administrations. He has been the deputy secretary and had operational control of the border. He knows how to have operational control of the border, and he is choosing not to.
Yeah. Well, like I say in my show, it's like, it's not difficult to discover if your country's great or not. Do people want in or do they want out? And I don't hear people digging holes, sneaking into North Korea. It's not happening. So there's a reason why they want to come in here. There's a reason that we should be proud of this nation, which is another thing that's being destroyed, is pride. I've made this very clear, and I'm going to wrap it up with this, and I'm so grateful and thankful that you went a little bit longer than you had time for. That's very generous. But I love what you have to say, and I just think it's important that people like you, the good guys, in Congress, in the House, are given a platform to explain that there are people that care about what's really going on in America and our regular citizens. But I have to finish with this last idea. It's very important. If there's one brush that has been painted over you, as well as many of us who are Christians and conservatives, but one that has been clearly used maliciously, it is the idea of Christian nationalists. Now, one of the things that I say often in my show and everywhere else, and when I speak, and with Rick Green, I know you know Rick Green and Patriot Academy, and him and I do
Wonderful
the
man.
Constitution show, and guys like that. But one of the things that I make very clear, and I want it to be said on this podcast with you sitting there, because I know you're going to agree, and I don't even know you that well yet. I do not worship the United States of America.
Right.
I worship Jesus Christ and God Almighty. That is my foundation. That is my hope. I tremble and work out my salvation with fear and trembling because I can't believe he allows me his grace. So that is my sacred, honorable duty. That's where I bow the knee. But I am grateful for the greatest nation in human history. I am grateful for the most eclectic, ecumenical, most diverse country in human history. Never been anything close. America was literally built on the very thing that leftists pretend they're creating, which is all this equity and creating this diversity. But to them, diversity simply means diverse, but there's no homogeneity. They can't come together. It's an anarchy. It's a broken machine. We're finding ways to integrate people that do have different points of view, do have different histories, do have different backgrounds, and finding a commonality in this nation. So one of the things I want to make sure we get here for you, so you speak, sister, because it's your platform. I want you to describe how you balance your patriotism and your love. And patriotism is now some sort of suspect term. They call it a dog whistle. I say, if it's a dog whistle for a conservative to talk about patriotism, then your bullhorn of despising this nation is much more, pathetic and despicable. How dare you, off the backs of those who died for your freedoms, disparage the very country that has given you the right to despise it. If you don't understand your ungratefulness, you're pathetic as a human. And I call out behavior always. I'm forbidden to hate people. I'm a Christian. I'm commanded to hate ideas that aren't God's. So let me let you finish this out with your own description, but I think it's important so that maybe if you ever need to pull a clip out and say, let me tell you who I am, so you don't get to, Denver Post doesn't get to decide for me who I am. How you balance your clear commitment to Jesus Christ in Christianity, which is your number one priority, and your ability to love this nation, be a patriot, and you made a vow to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. So how do you distinguish these ideas? Where does nationalism become an idol and not Christian? And when does it simply become a means to be grateful and honorable to the territory that you were given based on the laws of the land?
I am a Christian, I am a patriot, and I am a conservative in that order. Christ absolutely comes first in my life. It is God, country, family. If we don't have a God, we don't have a country. If we don't have a country, we can't protect our family. And so there is an order of operation there that needs to be followed. But to say that I'm a Christian nationalist is absurd, because I don't need a qualifier for my faith. I don't need America to define my faith. Jesus has already done that. But I have swore an oath to uphold this Constitution, which was written in Judeo-Christian values, written in such faith, and honoring God at the forefront of that document, and just recognizing that this is where our rights come from. That it wasn't a greedy, corrupt politician who gave us rights and can take them away from us through whatever emergency or bill or plan that they have. They don't get to do that. And for my proper role as a United States representative, above all else, there's water storage projects that need to be done here in Colorado. We have forestry issues. We need to manage our forests. We have infrastructure issues. All of this is important. But above all else, it is my job to keep you free, to secure your rights. And that needs to be at the forefront of every representative, every senator, every president's thinking, is how do I keep my people free? How do I secure those rights? That's what the Constitution is for. And so, you know, they could say that it's a dog whistle for violence. I mean, I think it's a whistle for love. You know, that's what Jesus has called us to do. But I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. It is the power of God unto salvation. And it is not something that I'm going to be silent about. And I can love my country and I can love the people. At the same time, I love Jesus and I love God. And just like you said, I don't worship this nation. I worship Jesus. And that is the defining aspect here. But, you know, they could say whatever they want and throw out their attacks. And it's really because anything that I find in the Word of God that I'm standing for, it goes against everything that they are promoting. So whenever they say she's going to destroy democracy, no, I'm trying to destroy your narrative and your agenda because it is destroying our country.
Right. Well, that's beautiful. And that kind of sums it up. Listen, so for all of you out there watching me right now, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I want you to share this interview that you're watching with all of your YouTube friends, Facebook friends who are in Colorado. She's in the 3rd district. She needs to be reelected and continue to be a representative of Colorado because, yes, it represents Colorado, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the state that she has. But she represents America. She represents all of us. I mean, that's really what it means to be a patriot. You care about everybody. What happens in each state constitutionally that is good and just and right and virtuous and builds us as a nation and tries to find a common ground helps all of us. Just because it happens in Rhode Island doesn't mean it doesn't bleed over here. Just like evil things and evil laws can end up in one state and bleed over into others. So it does matter that each state is represented by constitutionalists, virtuous people, and people who stand for the truth. So I want you to share this with everybody in Colorado to help her. If you are not a Christian, God bless you. We welcome you here. Support her financially, support her at her rallies, whatever, because you're welcome here. Well, that's what Christianity is. You have the right to believe or not believe. That's between you and God. One day you'll see him. You can talk to him then. But we are trying to offer you this opportunity now while the getting's good. But if you are in the 3rd district in Colorado, I want you to get people around. I want you to get your churches around. I want you to rally around this woman, defend her honor, defend her family, defend her kids, and let them know there is a reckoning day. And you will no longer continue to defeat or to overrun the Constitution, continue to do illegal things, and get away with it. Justice is coming. And we are Americans. We want you to join us. We want you to partner with us. But we're not going away. And we are willing to die for this. That's what makes this what it is. And it's no different than the Revolutionary War season, Civil War season, World War II season, even as early as 2001 and 9/11. This is a rallying cry where Americans either decide that liberty and freedom is more important than life, or I promise you, America will not survive. But as long as there's Lauren Boeberts and folks like that, we have a chance. God bless you, sister. Thank you so much for coming on. And I just love what you're doing. And hopefully we'll see each other again soon. And I hope we can do some shows together or something where we can go out and inspire Americans, have some laughs, have some truth, and have some Jesus. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We did it, White. Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, I have 2% left on my...
So there you have it. I guess you can say it's official. I'm a journalist. I am a real professional big boy that actually has real conversations with real people who are doing real damage for the kingdom and for America. And I am so grateful that she took the time to do that. I do want you to share. You know, as you guys constantly tell me, I didn't get any invitation when you were on. I didn't get a notification. I know. So you got to just share this stuff, folks. We have to just circumvent it. We have to do what all conservatives and Christians are learning to do, and that is take back doors, dig holes, go through the roof, tear upon the sheaths of the rooftop, and lower the stick down, because, you know, they They don't want us to have a voice. They don't want us to be heard. They don't want us to be seen. They don't want us to have power. They don't want us to even be able to exist. But we will fight until we die. That is what it means to be a Christian. It's what it means to be a patriot. It means what it means to be an American. You either care about this or you don't. This is even more important to you than sitting back and having the government tell you what to wear, what to put on, what to inject, and here's some food. Now just shut up and work for us. I'm not going to live my life like that. And there's too many people out there, too many mothers and fathers who've lost sons and daughters as military. There's too many husbands and wives that were lost. Too many grandparents who are gone because they served to defend this nation. And for us to think it's not our turn is ungrateful, and it's cowardice. And we simply cannot survive. This nation isn't going to keep going, folks. You cannot continue to open your border wide up. You cannot continue to have people cancel different points of view and not let you speak. You cannot continue to fire people and not hire people, not let people work because they happen to be Christians. You cannot live in a country that will continue to do the most despicable ideas and immoral behaviors and give them honor. You cannot continue this and think we're going to survive. We're not. This is real Revolutionary War time. We are in the midst of it, and you have to do something about it. It's kind of like saying you're a Christian. You actually believe Jesus is God. And I'll say, I don't think you really do. Well, what do you mean? I said a prayer, and I go to church, and I know all the Christian Bible studies and all the right songs, and I know, I've memorized the verses. And I said, well, do you really believe Jesus is God? Yes, I do. Do you really think he's the only way? Oh, yes, I do. And then I say, well, then when's the last time you told somebody? Oh, I don't know. I don't. I kind of keep it to myself. Well, then you don't believe it. Because if you believe God was here, you'd tell people, because that's a pretty amazing story. In other words, God is winnowing out the posers. It's happening all over churches throughout the nation. I just got back from Indianola, Iowa, where I performed at a Church of Christ there. Kirk Evans, wonderful pastor, great weekend, great time. This is what I'm doing, folks. This is what I'm doing. If you have a church, if you have a conservative group, if you have a pro-life group that wants to bring in comedy, but then somebody that's going to stand up for American values, stand up for conservatism, stand up for this country, and fight and try to help and assist you the best I can in whatever community you're at, or you're trying to raise funds for somebody or for something that is going to defend this nation. That's what I'm doing. That's what this is. That's what this podcast is all about, is just another way to speak to my fellow Americans, fellow Christians, fellow people, fellow humans, and try to, like I said, we get people from all over the world. Well, because they want to be free too. So that's where we need to hold hands as humans and say freedom and agency and autonomy is a God-breathed, holy, sacred gift he's given to us. Folks, Christmas is coming. And so if you want to get the book, Being a Christian Without Being an Idiot, 11 Assumed Truths That Make Us Look Stupid, for $55, it's quite an investment. But like I said, I will sign it to anybody you want me to, and I will send it to you as a Christmas gift, or if it's just something you want. It's a way to donate to this ministry. It is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit. But this is a way for me to tell this story and to get out there and hopefully one day reach a point where there's enough subscribers and enough ability for it to generate income so that I can even go do places for free, just because, so that anybody that just simply can't afford it but needs to tell this story, I can do that. That's kind of what I'm shooting for. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm grateful you guys came on. I hope you enjoyed that. Listen, that was a long interview. It was about an hour. And I did want to ask you guys this. I do look to you as being the ones that helped me define and create this podcast to make it as good as it can be. So I want you to leave comments. Do you like the longer format interviews? Do you enjoy that? Because we end up at 8:30. This whole thing started. I started at 7. I was done by 8. It was an hour in and out. It was fun. We kind of laughed, joked, and it was over. Or I'd throw in some deep things, and then you went home and you cried. But it's getting longer and longer. And if you don't mind that, if you guys say, listen, we're happy to be here, we'll spend the time. We enjoy the long format that Joe Rogan made popular. I'll do that. I just as soon get you as much information as I can. I really try to ask questions that aren't the typical questions that everybody asks. I really try to think what would be interesting to the viewer. What would be something maybe that you guys would want to know and you don't have a chance to do it. And we're going to have live guests too. And I've even done that. Live guests and said, hey, ask some questions, guys, and we'll try to ask them. And nobody asked. Or by the time you did, it was over. So I'm here to help you be inspired and to become a warrior that will fight for this nation. And when we all do it, when we all take off that mask, when we all refuse that mandate, then we once again are the government of the United States of America. We make the laws, we make the rules, and we decide how freedom is going to be continued and sacredly preserved in the United States. So thank you for being here. We got some new guests that will constantly be coming, and we'll keep making it as interesting as we can. If you have some suggestions for guests, go ahead and put it in there. I'll see what I can do. But this is where we're going. I told you, I promised you, if we make this thing happen, I will have some people on that you're going to really be impressed by. So, we've done it again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all my people, the new people, and for all the old ones that show up every week. It's always a humbling thing, but I'm appreciative. So, remember, PC free is liberty. Never be politically correct. And if they say you're not, just tell them thank you. And all I'm doing, as God's comic, Brad Stine, is doing what you should do every day. Putting the woke back to sleep. God bless you.